Hello there, and welcome back to math class. I am here today to show you a little bit more about mixed numbers and improper fractions. This is such an important skill. I want to make sure that we cover it very well. So to do this lesson, this is not a book lesson, this is just one that I'm adding in. You will need item 17 from your memory pieces. And when you cut this one out, you just cut it out as one big block, so it looks like this. And then you will need to cut that block into strips. So ultimately, this is what you want, to separate A, B, C, D, and E so that we can use each piece of that picture to do an example. So you cut it out as one whole block and then get rid of this by cutting it into strips. So the first piece that I'm going to use is piece A, and I'm just going to cut that and bring that back over here to this page. If you need to stop the video to do that, that is fine. Okay, I'm going to give this page a title. We're just going to call it Mixed Numbers and Improper Fractions. And I want to just make sure that you understand not only what mixed numbers and improper fractions are, but how they relate to each other. That's really the point of this video. So mixed numbers and improper fractions. And I want to show you how the skills that you've learned, QRD and MAD, fit with this picture. So that sounds like a lot of stuff. It's really nothing you haven't seen before, but I just want to make sure that you really understand what's going on here. So the visuals will help, the pictures will help us. So in example A, and I'm going to try to make this just a little bit bigger. Mine is a little bit smaller. There we go, maybe. Looking at this example, these are triangles, of course, and we want to count the triangles. Let's see how many triangles there are. There are 5 of them. How many of the triangles are fully colored? Well, that's 4. 4 of them are solid yellow, and then I have half of another triangle. So the mixed number for this picture, this is one of your vocabulary words, and if you've been practicing those flashcards at this point, these should be very familiar. So there are 4 whole triangles and 1/2 of another one that is yellow. So 4.5 triangles are yellow. The improper fraction for that picture, for me, was a little bit harder to see. I had an easier time with the mixed number. But let's see if we can zoom in here and figure out the improper fraction. So here is 1/2 and 1/2. That makes 2 halves. Here is another half, so 3 halves, 4 halves, 5 halves, 6 halves, 7 halves, 8 halves, 9 halves. So if you look at this picture in terms of halves, how many are there? There are 9 halves in this whole picture. So I can see visually that the mixed number is 4.5 and the improper fraction is 9 halves, because I have that picture there and I can count that without too much trouble. But what if the picture's not there? This is where making the mixed number MAD comes in and where QRD comes in. So let's make the mixed number mad first of all. Let's take the 4.5 and let's make it mad. So we make, if you want to make the circle, that helps. And remember, when you make a mixed number mad, you multiply and then you add and then you keep the denominator. So we have 2 times 4, that's 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. That'll be the top number. And we keep the denominator. So look at that. There's that 9 halves that we already knew we were looking for because the picture tells us that it's 9 halves. So what if we take the improper fraction and do QRD? So let's take 9 halves and divide it. So we have 9 divided by 2. 2 into 9 goes 4 times. 4 times 2 is 8 with a remainder of 1. So when you put this through the QRD box, you will get, no surprise, quotient, remainder, divisor. And there is the 4.5 that we knew we needed to have. So this is just a math representation of what's happening in the picture. And I wanted to do several of these so that you could see exactly where these numbers are coming from. But you had to learn how to make a mixed number mad, and you had to learn about QRD before we could do this. Okay, let's get number 2, or option B. And I really need to be labeling these. Let me go ahead and put this one down so I don't lose it, and pull this down just a little bit. If you don't have any room, it's okay. You don't have to worry about this. And I may not be able to get it to work. I'm going to have to change the nib on my pencil because my Apple Pencil, it's not working like it should. So I'm just going to leave that one alone, and let's try this one. I really need to be able though to enlarge it a little bit. Okay, so this is example B, and let's go ahead and name this one. I meant to call that one example A. So example B. And I just got these graphics off the internet. I searched for free images and found these. So first, I want to write a mixed number for this picture. And I can see that there are 2 whole pieces and 3/4 of a third piece. Each of them is cut into fourths. That's where that denominator is coming from. I have 2 whole pieces and 3/4 of another. So the improper fraction and I'll zoom in and we'll count these. I think that's good practice. Remember, they're cut into fourths. So here is 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, 7/4, 8/4, 9/4, 10/4, 11/4. So the improper fraction is 11/4. So let's make this mixed number mad and see what we get. We have 2 and 3/4, and we are going to make it mad. So we multiply m, add, and then keep the denominator, MAD. And this is going to be 4 times 2, that's 8. 8 plus 3 is 11, and we keep the denominator. And look at that. It matches that improper fraction that we knew we needed to have. Okay, so let's QRD the improper fraction and see what we have. So 11 fourths will become the division problem. 11 divided by 4. 4 goes into 11 2 times. That's an 8. And we have 3 left over. So QRD your answer. Quotient is the tall one. Remainder and divisor. And look at what we have. So what this tells me is that mixed numbers and improper fractions are mathematical inverses. And we're going to write that rule in just a minute. Actually, let's go ahead and write it. We have space right here. Mixed numbers let's say a mixed number and an improper fraction are inverse let's use the real fancy word, algorithms. And I'll break this down for you. But let's get it down first. A mixed number and an improper fraction are inverse algorithms. An algorithm is a math it doesn't have to be math. These are math processes. So what I'm saying here is what you build up with one, you can break down with the other process. Inverse is another important word that you need to know, and those are opposite, or reverse is another good word for inverse. It's like adding and subtracting. What you build up with addition, you can break down with subtraction. They're opposite processes, or inverse algorithms, if you want to use the fancy vocabulary. Okay, let's look at example C. And I have this one already on this page. So example C is this picture. Let me get rid of B. I didn't mean to keep a copy. And here is C. We have a set of squares. Let me enlarge it just a little bit. And let's visually look at this and get the mixed number. And I know you're tired of writing these terms, but I am trying to build this vocabulary into your thinking. There are 3 whole squares and 1/4 of another one. So the improper form of this fraction is, let me show you a trick here. I started to do this on the first one and decided not to. Okay, let's count the fourths here. This is 4/4, which is the same as 1 whole. Here is another set of 4/4. So this is a total of 8/4, which is 8 divided by 4 is 2. This is 1 whole, this is 2 wholes, which is exactly what we're looking at. 2 whole. If these are pizzas, we have 2 whole pizzas. Okay, so here comes the third whole. And you may be able to tell me without even counting what that one's going to be. If I want to get 3 wholes, I'm going to have 12 up top. So 12 fourths is equivalent to 3 whole pizzas. And then we only have 1/4 of this last one. So we have 3 1/4, or we have 12 fourths plus one more is 13 fourths. So I believe that these two, this mixed number and this improper fraction, are correct, but let's make sure. Let's make the mixed number mad and we'll see if it turns out to be correct. I've had way too much coffee, guys. So we multiply and then add, and then we're going to keep the same denominator. So m is 3 times 4. That's 12. And notice where else we've seen a 12. Right there, 12 fourths. Plus 1, so 12 plus 1 is 13. And there is the improper fraction. To make this a mixed number, we have to QRD the improper fraction. So we do 13 divided by 4. That's going to go 3 times, and that's going to be a remainder of 1. So QRD, that's quotient, remainder, divisor. Quotient, remainder, divisor. 3 1/4. So these two numbers are in fact related correctly. Okay, here is example D. And I may need another page. I'm not sure. I think I will. If you don't, that is okay. Just use whatever space you need to in your notebook. Okay, example D, I want to enlarge that just a bit. And this time we have lemon pies. Okay, so how many whole lemon pies do you see? I see 2. And then 1/2 of another one. So I have 2 1/2 lemon pies. Or if you want this in improper form, and you may be thinking, why do I need both? Why can't I just write it one way and forget it? Here's the answer to that. When you add and subtract fractions, you need them as mixed numbers. When you multiply and divide fractions, you need them as improper fractions. So sometimes we need the first form, and sometimes we need the second form. So we as math students have to be able to do both. So here is 1/2, 2 halves. Remember, 2 halves is the same as 1 whole. Then 3 halves, 4 halves. 4 halves is the same as 2 whole lemon pies. And then 1/2 of another one. So we have 2 1/2, which is the same as 5 halves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 halves. So let's check it out. Let's make this mixed number mad and see if we get the improper fraction we think. So you spin it around, multiply, add, denominator. 2 2s are 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. And there is the 5 halves. Let's QRD 5 halves and see what we get. So 5 divided by 2 is 2 times with remainder of 1. So the quotient is 2. The remainder is 1, and the denominator doesn't change. It's a 2. The divisor, 2 and 1/2. One more and we'll let this go. I think we've covered a lot of examples. If you're still having trouble with this, don't forget that you can always call your instructor, and he or she can help you understand this better. If you're sick and tired of it, you know it, you're done with it, I understand that too. We will be moving on to something. We'll be using this skill, but we'll be using it in a different way. Okay, so mixed number on this one. By the way, this is called a parallelogram. It's kind of a rectangle that's leaning. I have one whole parallelogram and half of another. And let me write that word for you. Parallelogram. And I will go back and write the names of the shapes. I should have been doing that all along. Improper fraction. So we have to count on this one. I have 1/2, 2 halves. 2 halves is equal to 1 whole. And then 1/2 of another one. So I have 1 and 1/2, or 3 halves. Okay, let's make this mixed number mad. So we have multiply and add. Keep the denominator. 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 plus 1 is 3. If you QRD the 3 halves, you get 3 divided by 2. So as soon as you put that 2 in there, I can tell you where it's going to go. It's the divisor, it sits there. 2 into 3 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2, with 1 left over. So 1 quotient, 1 remainder, and half. So in this parallelogram picture, we have 1 1/2, or 3 halves. Okay, let me tell you the names of these pictures, these shapes in the pictures. This one is a square. All of them are squares. Of course, circle. Example A, which I forgot to label, these are triangles. Tri means 3, 3 angles. Example B, we're looking at rectangles. And that got them all. So that's going to be important in the geometry lesson. You need to know the names of your shapes. We'll do flashcards for these when that time comes, but it never hurts to start early learning those. All right, there is no workbook lesson for this one, so the next video you will see, I believe, is about adding and subtracting mixed numbers. So that's coming up very soon, and you will be using these skills in that lesson as well. If you have questions, I've already said, please contact your instructor, and I will see you soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.